Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. I'm looking at a traffic jam here. Mm, mm, mm. Mm, mm, mm. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. So it seems that we're having a traffic jam right here where I'm at. Someone, I think their axle fell out. Hi guys, how you doing? Hi Byron T. Hi Edgar Cooch. Edgar Coo. I think I'm saying it right. I'm terrible with names, but I think I'm saying it right. Welcome, guys. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And if you saw the title, why they don't want you to know certain information, why they don't want certain information shared. So you have different kinds of means to attack on online. They have put our spirituality online. And even before I get started with this, I just want to, send out my condolences to the two young men who were unalived in Mississippi. They found hanging, and these are I would say, and this is no coincidence, and that's all I can say about that. So these types of attacks that you will see that they have online, that they have allowed our people, our ancient people, to compile. They have compiled it from our grandmothers, our indigenous people, and they put it online for a reason, because they wanted us to ultimately unalive ourselves. They wanted us to use that kind of information, and I've seen several different renditions of gopher dust, and gopher dust is used to attack. It's used to only attack enemies. It should not be used, just because you had a different disagreement in the family. It should not be used just because you had a disagreement on your job or in community. It's not for that purpose. It's for the ultimate purpose of harming someone long term or unaliving them. So when you have AI online telling people to sprinkle, gopher dust in front of their house, in front of, on their land, then you ultimately understand that these people have sent out a negative frequency. And when you send out that kind of frequency, you use that malevolent amount of energy towards anyone that hasn't done that type of negative energy towards you, that ultimately has you very sick at a very early age. It will affect your children. It will unalive you at a very early age. It will make you sick because of the injustice, the intentions that you sent out. So, and I've looked at the recipe for this gopher dust that they have online. It is, very close and very similar. Uh, can you take me dancing? No, no, thank you. I don't want to go dancing. Thank you very much. Opening the matrix, you can shut it down. You're something else. You guys are funny. Uh, Negative frequencies, are they radios? Yes. Negative frequencies, they can use any kind of signal in order to send out a negative frequency. So Val Boogie, I will remove you. So you should stop with that. So we have to make sure that energy, that negative energy that they are trying to get you to use against your own people, it was actually meant for the colonizers. It was actually meant for those people who had sent out that negative frequency upon the slaves, their children. It was those people who had really committed atrocities in the land, just about like it is now. So the reason why the church doesn't also want you to use these kinds of information, because a lot of people will use them for malevolent purposes. And you have to be able to have a balance and understanding of who is your enemy. If your enemy is the woman that stole your husband, or the man that stole your wife from you, if that's your enemy, then we definitely have a problem. Because if we were going by the holy books, then there's a way that you go about doing that. There is a divorce. There is a way that you make people pay for doing those kinds of things in court. So, you don't have to set up on them with malicious attacks, and they didn't want you to use this kind of energy, because actually the church has been using this kind of negative energy against their enemies. So a lot of this information that they wanted to keep from you is because they had actually been using it against those people who was against the church in the early ages. They were using it against anyone who didn't agree with them. They were sending out this negative frequency for people who did not agree with them. So we want to make sure that we keep our understanding open, that there are certain people who will use this energy for negative. And as we look online, there are different kinds of attacks that they have set up, and we're going to be going over some during the week. But this is one specific one that I wanted to give you, that's online, that it should not be online because of its nature. Why would someone put something so malevolent unless they wanted them to be used against them? It should not be used except in extreme cases. So we're having these people who are the authors of negative energy, who have used spell work against their own society, that wants to keep this type of energy and information from you, because definitely they saw what could happen when slaves were infuriated by their behaviors. You have people who were indigenous slaves from America and Africa, who would, engage in, malevolent acts against their colonizers, against their slave masters, to unalive them. And it did not just include putting things in someone's food. They use cyanide in order to sew different kinds of, unaliving powders in people's clothes, which means that they would have had a very slow unaliving. So, a lot of these things have been captured. So these are the ways, and this is why they don't want this information, when they know full well it is supposed to be. It's supposed to be, kept in secret places for the recipes of these types of things. It's supposed to not be online so anybody just has access to it, which lets me know that they have been using these against certain people. So I want you to understand, and I want you to gather this from this live, that they know full well, certain things that they don't want you to have, because they have already tried and tested it. They don't want it. This is forbidden knowledge. So to say this is magic, this is black magic, or whatever, when they posted it online. So obviously they want somebody to use it. They want some desperate soul who doesn't know how to balance, who is going to come from a very low frequency, and use that kind of information to harm somebody who hasn't done that kind of level of attack upon them. So, we're having some very interesting times here in America, and with the Holy Church, where they don't want people to have certain understandings, because if you have certain understandings of certain compounds, of certain kinds of rituals, of certain kinds of cleansing rituals, then you can cleanse the negative energy that ultimately they've been engaged in spell work against you and the population. Stink nasty. It smells crazy in there. Uh, where did that come from? Who has a name like Stink Nasty? You guys are funny. But these people, they absolutely understand that there's certain knowledge that they have been keeping from you, and they've hidden the knowledge in plain sight, because if your pastor tell you, don't read another book. If your pastor tell you that this is, why you're sick or whatever, it's those people, it's that alcohol, it's this, it's that. You're going to believe that. You're going to go with the pastor, because the pastor is supposed to be the person that is discerning the spirit of God. It's supposed to be close to God. These are the information that we have in our book, and they have been there. They don't want you to discern this kind of information, because certain compounds that they have, and I can't really just say, all people, but I can say the people here in America, have used these compounds in order to harm their own society, in order to stagnate them, in order to stagnate and put that brain fog on their mind, with these kinds of attacks to keep you in turmoil. So I want you to understand that there are ways to break those kinds of negative attacks up on you, and one of them is, again, and I can't, really just see saying this, is to have a connection with God. I have had people who have tried to use attacks up on me with, laying tricks down and all of these things. There are ways that we can overcome those kinds of attacks where they have tried to lay tricks down and sent negative energy to stagnation. There are different ways that you can cleanse this energy. This is the knowledge that they say is forbidden, yet it's on the internet. You can cleanse that energy. I have cleansed that energy. You can overcome that kind of energy where they're trying to send spells to unalive you, where they're trying to send spells to harm you, to put you in a total state of lack, rejection, grief, depression, and sickness. You can overcome those kinds of attacks, because there will be always people out here in society that have went into such a low vibrational state that they will stoop to using such attacks upon their own people. And I mean that by, people in your family. I mean that by people on your job. There will always be people who want what you have. There will always be people who want to extinguish your light. There will always be people who want your gifts, and they will use these extra means in order to harm you, in order to take that light. So they will be rewarded by the entity. So you want to always use, your connection to God. You want to use fasting when people, or when you feel that oppressive spirit that someone has used this kind of black magic, black, black magic, sorcery upon you. You want to make sure that you're taking your cleansing baths, and you're going to have to, and this is why I gave you, the one for free, from the very beginning of, me being on these videos with you guys and talking about this spiritual healing process. You can use your 4 thieves vinegar in order to remove those kinds of attacks from your feet. You can use your 4 thieves vinegar, and again, I make my own products. And this is how I overcame those people in my family, people that were around me who were trying to use gopher dust, and some of them in some of the rural areas call it goober dust. So we want to make sure that we can make our own products to cleanse that negative energy. That is going to take some time to remove that kind of negative energy. You can reach out to me at any time if you're having a problem, where you've had people trying to take you to dark places. Use this kind of gopher dust, and they got an old lady with AI, running around here online talking about some, you can put this down in your house and in front of your door. No, you're gonna poison yourself if you do that. You're gonna poison your life. You're gonna have problems. You're gonna cross yourself if you do that. And this is why I have given you the 4 thieves vinegar. It has all the ingredients in it in order to cleanse that negative energy. If someone has tried to poison your feet with this kind of information that should not be online, available to people who may try to use it against regular, unsuspecting people who cannot cleanse it. As soon as I saw this online, and I knew that I was going to do these videos for you guys and with you guys, the first thing that I wanted to do is to give you what cleansed me inside and out with the 4 thieves vinegar, by making it, by letting it sit up, several days, by praying over it, and setting the tone and the intentions with the Holy Quran, and commanding that negative energy, using, the 37th chapter of Psalms, using, the 100, and I think it's the 119th Psalms over my 4 thieves vinegar. Praying, the book of Job over my vinegar. Because these people are actually setting up on you to make you, it's not just, the malevolent spiritual warfare from, the drug epidemic. It's not just, the crack epidemic. It's not just, the fentanyl epidemic. They are trying to unalive you, and they're trying to get you to do it against each other, and God sent me to warn you that if you take this kind of attack and you start harming people, you will be unalived very early in life. I have seen it so many times. I've seen it so many times in my family. I've seen it so many times in other families from clients, and in order to make sure that we get this word out, and I want you, to talk about it. Share this video. Hit the like button, please. I want you to understand. I want you to understand the urgency, the sense of urgency, why I'm saying to you, why you should not use a lot of the things that's on the internet that the entity has put on the internet for your downfall, for you to go ahead and try to siphon the energy off of your family, off of your children, so that, the negative energy surges through your family for all time and reaps benefits on certain ones for all times, for generations to come, because you have used something that the enemy has given you. Prayer and fasting will identify, and this is, I'm letting you know that this is why they don't want this kind of information talked about, because prayer and fasting will identify those people who have used that gopher dust, who have used that black magic, who have used that sorcery against you and your family. When you go into prayer and fasting, and you seek refuge with the Most High. This is why they don't want you to have access to this kind of information, because their negative intentions will be exposed when you start, to prostrate. This is why certain information was taken out of the Holy Bible, because, I read it, ever since I was a child, and I see nothing in the Holy Bible that teach you how to fast in detail. So when you learn how to fast, when you learn how to command that negative energy be returned to the persons who have sent that unaliving spell to you with gopher dust, those people who have put you on evil altars and taken your personal items to dark places, those people who have tried to bury you in cemeteries, you can get over all of that. There is a cure for that kind of negative energy. That is the lowest level. That is the most insidious way that a person can try to harm you. And I wanted you to understand that everything that shines on the internet is not gold. I wanted you to be aware that, if your situation is so dire that, you have to turn to malevolent energy, that you attack people by poisoning their feet and stagnating them, so that, the poison slowly, does the job. If you employ people to do this kind of work for you, you are still the author, and you will be held accountable. I guarantee you won't make it to C70 when you're using that kind of negative energy that's online. And it was only put there, the ancestors only gave them means to attack. And now they're using, these old ladies with, these curly haired, sweet AI looking voices, these, frosty voices that they got, flowery voices, and trying to tell you something about spirituality that our people have already given us. And for those of us who know, we know, especially the indigenous ones like me, whom it's in your system, it's in your blood. You know not to use certain things. It's very sad. It's very sad that our spirituality has been posted, with no repercussions. So I have to sound the alarm to you, why don't do that? Why our parents are silent, a silent generation? Why our parents integrated with the system? Why they don't have anything to show for it? Why their health is in declining? Why they have Alzheimer's? Because they have attempted to attack people in the family with things that they have posted online. Hi, Michael. How you doing? Hi. Nice to see you. I'm glad that you came. Hit the like button for me. All of you hit the like button, and it helps with the algorithm. I really appreciate you. Please make sure that we're not taking anything from the entity without first getting the knowledge behind it, but without first looking behind us and understanding what gopher dust will do to you. If you don't know what gopher dust will do, do not take it from the internet. Speak to somebody who knows about it. Gopher dust is meant to unalive people. It's meant for people to have a hard time. It's not just a regular attack upon a person. It is a slow attack, a slow way to have somebody's, rejected in life, their health. Yes, hi again, Michael. It's meant to have their health go down. It's meant to, have their mental health. It's meant to make psychic attacks. It's meant to unalive people. You do not want to use what's on the internet unless you can balance it, unless you know how to use it, unless you attack the colonizer first before you're attacking people in your family and just regular people in that way. You should not be attacking anyone. So I wanted to sound the alarm against this negative energy that has been put online, and the entire recipe in order to, have somebody that is, in a low vibrational state use it and end up like our parents, not being able to talk to us correctly, not being able to raise their own children, not being able to tell them that dating and marriage is two different things. That if you go with the entity, you're going to date and you will not be able to get married. That is what gopher dust does. I hope that I have explained this in detail for you, that it will cause problems in your life. It will cause upset. It will cause rejection in your life. And it will not only stop there, it will start to reap havoc on your children when you use this. I have had to clean people over years to get that kind of, festering poison out of their system because they did not know that they had stepped in that kind of stuff or someone had laid that kind of trick down for them. So please, please do not take the negative energy from the internet. There are certain kinds of, certain kinds of different things online can be cured. It can be cured, but certainly you do not see a cure for this hot foot online because they do not have it. They do not have it. And even if you, see this person in sores and suffering, you will not be able to take that back because that person didn't deserve that, what you sent out. And ultimately, whatever you sent out, you must get it back. It will return to sender. And usually with that level of negative energy that's sent out using that kind of dirt or dust, it is going to come back and it will start to unalive people in your line, at a very rapid pace, a very early age. So, again, I've seen this kind of negative energy many times and had to cleanse it and had to go, back a year in order to cleanse this type of negative energy from a client. I've had to go back, once we got it out of one place, it had been setting up on them. It went into, their lungs. They started having spitting up mucus. We had to, use different kinds of hyssop, different kinds of, herbal remedies in order to remove that negative energy, that poison that had been sent to this person unknowingly, to slowly unalive them. So, I hope that you have received this message. Please do not take any of the recipes. Do not use those recipes that's online against your own people. You will ultimately end up like our parents if you do that. If you take those remedies and you have attacked them, you're going to, suffer. You're not going to have anything in life. You're going to be poor. Because all you'll want to do is siphon someone's energy. All you want is the energy. All you want is power, and you will never be able to attain to it. So I hope that you received this message. I hope that you've enjoyed this live. Why they don't want you to have certain information. You know, please reach out to me if you're having these kinds of issues in your life, in your children's life. If you've noticed these kinds of patterns, you can reach out to me for an in-depth consultation. Please like, share, and subscribe over all of my platforms. Don't forget to hit the like button. You guys, I really appreciate you guys. I really appreciate your support. I love you guys. And please, take care of yourself out there. Reach out to me for consultations if you need to. I'm High Oracle. Donate to my page. Assalamu alaikum.